Welcome to the Full Fueled Podcast. Welcome to the Full Fueled Podcast. Welcome to the podcast with your host, Matt Tack. With your host, Matt Tack.
Your host, Matt Tack.
Who are you?
I'm Dr. Alfred Alessi.
Dr. Alfred Alessi.
Dr. Alfred Alessi.
They know by now, bro. They know by now.
I'm going to set what the new normal looks like in my life.
You're not limited by your genetics.
You have a superpower that is lifting people up. Dude, you
The only way we're going to get the word out is with you. Live full fueled, live beyond limits, baby.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Full Fueled Podcast with your host, Matt Tack, and Dr. Alfred Alessi. And we just want to remind you, if you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to subscribe, share, because it's the only way to get the message out. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. And we're going to be diving into a topic that's kind of close to my heart, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of guys miss out on this, guys and women. But it's the idea of we all have hobbies. We all enjoy hobbies. Dr. Alessi and I enjoy our particular hobbies of golf and basketball. And as we age, why do guys stop training with the purpose of getting better in those hobbies, right? So our training at the gym or resistor training, mobility training, whatever it might be, why don't we do that with the purposes of getting better, right? And I see there's a lot of time in golf where we'll have guys that really decent golfers, but they don't hold their body up to that standard and just don't get the longevity out of it. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today in terms of getting better training within your hobby.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, I was thinking of a couple friends of ours that, I'm not going to put their names on it to blast them or anything, but
Blast them,
like,
dude.
they're good players, right? They can hit the ball and they've got good form and stuff like that, but they're out of shape. And so you're like, man, I wonder, like, if this guy was in better shape or if he was stronger, and took a little bit better care of his body, what he'd be able to do, right? And, like, I think some of it comes down to, like, they don't care. They're like, but deep down, they do. Like, they might on the outside be like, oh, I don't care. Like, I just like to have fun. It's like, no, like, as a man, like, we all have that inside where we have a little, even if it's like self competition, right? Like, when I play golf by myself, like, I want to get better. I like get pissed off if I have a, shot that I know I can hit and you miss or something like that. So yeah, I always think about that. I'm like, man, like, this guy'd be scratch player if he just took a little bit more time for his body. And so then what that looks like, right, is specific training. It's not just what, most people are doing, which is just kind of, going to the gym, doing a little cardio for 20 minutes, getting a sweat, and then, lifting some weights at a sub maximal rep range and volume that they're really not creating any adaptation. You got to have some specific things that you're doing for core strength, for low back strength. A lot of guys end up hurting themselves, and sport specific training, but with the longevity kind of mindset. And I'd say, like, the way I've kind of done that for myself is, okay, so, like, what's my main, like, physical thing is, like, I just want to keep my body obviously healthy, but I got 2 young boys, you got 3 young girls. So that's kind of our main sport is, like, being a dad. And, like, believe me, that is a sport because there's all the kind of movements that go into that, right? You're flinging your kids into the pool the other day, right? Like, if I'm not in shape, if I don't keep my core strong, that's how guys end up, like, herniating a disc. And they come into my office, they're like, yeah, we're messing with the kids in the pool and I herniated a disc. It's like, come on, man. So you got to be, prepared for that. And then whatever your hobby is going to take a different type of focus, right? Whether you like to play basketball, I like to play lacrosse too. Golf is different. So yeah, I mean, what is, and we have in our programs too, we have built out some of these cool specific like training modalities, but what is your approach in your training, I'd say, to stay, I guess, well-rounded, but also specific?
Yeah, that's a good point and a good segue real quick. We have the Optimizers program, which would serve a bunch of guys that want to live life to the fullest. So if you're looking to get optimized and want to join a great community, we have the Optimizers community. Reach out to us and we'll get you more information. So what I do specifically is a lot of core training. So I make sure, and you know me, I mean, I'm an owner in a clinic with you. So at the end of the day, I'm going in and getting adjustments. Like I make sure I have proper alignment. I know I feel it too, because like obviously when I'm doing some squats, a lot of barbell. I do a lot of machine weights. Obviously as I get older, it is more machine oriented. But then I do like obviously some barbell stuff and a lot of dumbbell too. But for me specifically, it's focused on engaging that core and then getting that core stability, because I think that's proper in any sort of a like hobby that I get into. Of course, I play basketball usually about a couple times a week. I guess one is my standard go-to. And then golf, I haven't played nearly as much, but I want to be prepared. And one thing I've noticed in golf with guys is that they play through injury, like their backs are a wreck, but then they love the game so much, but then they don't want to do anything about it, right? They're like, man, my back's a wreck, but I'm going to push through it, right? And like that's the point though of, do you want to keep pushing through that, or do you actually want to feel good and play good, right? I got this motto in my life of look good, feel good, play good, right? So if I'm looking good and I'm feeling good, I typically am going to play a little bit better. And so with that motto is like, all right, well, what am I doing? And I know that, even when we train together, that pushes me a little bit more, even with different new training modalities. You're like, hey, how about we superset this core workout with while we're doing, maybe a dead set or whatever it might be. So those are the things that I like incorporating in terms of like that resistance mobility training. When I'm incorporating maybe we're doing a back squat. So I'll just give an example, right? So doing a back squat, and then we're taking a resistance band and doing just lateral work with the resistance band. That it really ignites the core, and then I'm coming back to that. That helps me because the different functionality that I have, I'm building a moment of like inertia, putting, 285 pounds on my back, but then I'm going and then engaging that core, which now I put it into a real life example. I'm sitting over a golf ball, and all that inertia is going to come from my waist down, right? And so, but I need to have a strong core in order to get that proper lift, right? And so I think of that, right? All right, how am I getting my inertia? Am I balanced correctly to get through that ball to get the distance that I want, right? And so those are the things that come through, that I think about. All right, am I properly training in a gym environment that then is going to transition to my hobby world, right? Where I want to look good, feel good, play good. Does that make sense?
100%. And it's like the example I was thinking of is like most guys just go do some squats, they go do some leg press, and everything's bilateral, like sagittal plane motion versus like lunges, right? And then like those matrix lunges where you're kind of stepping out to like a 45-degree angle, or like lunge with twist, lunge with rotation. That kind of stuff is going to prepare you more for life and for sport than just a barbell squat. So I think you and I maybe train slightly differently in that you're more on a muscle building program right now, and I'm a little bit more on I do 2 to 3 days a week of strength training, but then I incorporate as well like some functional mobility strength training too, which like you can do both at the same time. If you're doing like those squats or those lunges we were doing the other day where we had the barbell on our back, and I don't even know if there's a name for this exercise, to be honest, but it's a lunge. And as you go down, you rotate towards that lead leg. So you're like activating your core, trying to resist the rotation aspect while you're doing a lunge, building strength, obviously, throughout the posterior chain of the leg. And then on the way back up, you rotate back. And that was a freaking awesome exercise. I felt so much activation in the core and the deep low back and the legs and the glutes, obviously. And that's what's going to bulletproof you against injury when you're playing a sport, which is very dynamic, right? And,
super dynamic. And you aren't going to be ready for every single scenario, but you want to be ready for 98% of them, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So that's where that comes into play. I think that this is also a good point to bring up is that, Dr. Alessi said that I'm in a stage of muscle building, right? That always isn't going to be the case. So even though I'm packing on more, that only comes through a period of time with me. I think that we think that doing the same thing over and over again is going to get the same results. And unfortunately, our body has a great memorization to it, right? So we have that muscle memory that naturally it's like if you take the same supplementation over again, if you do the same things over and over again, cognitively, those things are not going to react the same way.
Diminishing return. Yeah.
Diminishing returns, right? And so really backtracking that of like, am I doing this for 90 days, maybe even 6 months? But then how am I retraining it? And that's why I like adding in, sometimes like I did CrossFit for a period of time, right? I wouldn't recommend doing CrossFit for like the years, and that's the only training mechanism that I do. But I do think that there's a purpose to it, obviously and rightfully so. CrossFit gets a little bit of a name because of the injuries. I think we saw it at Fit Fest, right?
It's like volume, it's just so much volume that on a daily basis, that's a lot, man. A lot of people can't tolerate that.
That's right. So then how are you programming those in? And I think, for me, 90-day increments work out great, right? Committing to something, getting your programming in locked in a good cadence for 90 days. And then it's a reprogram, right? Okay. Now, a little bit different movements. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, every program we built into the optimizers, we have different options for guys and different programs, but they all go in 90-day sprints, right? Or 90-day circuits. And it goes through phases. Even every 30 days is different. So the one that you're doing is the anabolic program we have, where your first 30 days is maximum muscle building, right? You're using heavier loads, you're pushing it, lighter rep ranges, but then the next month after that is a little bit higher rep ranges, more pushing into like hypertrophy, which is building, muscle size. And then the third month is more like pump and really like blow those muscles up. And then after the third month, what do? Honestly, you could start that all over again. And you go through that cycle of strength, hypertrophy, and pump. And it's a fantastic way to kind of keep a novelty to your brain and to your body that, hey, this is different. Versus if you live in strength land forever, it's going to be not as effective. Obviously, you still get benefits, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's kind of a great positioning in terms of how you're incorporating that novelty perspective. Everything gets stale, you know what I mean? And so like when things do get stale, it's good to create that mixer that allows you to produce some level of, just brain release that allows you to grow in a different capacity. I do want to mention that this episode is brought to you by Alessi Functional Health, getting you to a pain-free future. You can check us out at alessifxhealth.com. And what we have in there is all sorts of good stuff. We got soft wave therapy. We have chiropractic therapy. We have acupuncture. We have cupping. We have infrared saunas. We have cold plunges. We have vibration plates. We got everything you need to live a full pain-free future. So come check us out.
Good plug. And that kind of goes into what we're talking about, right? Like if somebody's trying to play a sport and be good at it, kind of what you were mentioning, man, like regular routine body work and, maintaining that level of mobility too. I think most guys, like if they're going to just be honest, most guys listening to this, they lift, or if they are somebody who does that, they lift and then they go home, right? They don't do any foam roll. They don't do any stretching, any warm up. Their warm up looks like 10 minutes on maybe a Stairmaster or a treadmill walk or even a jog, But as far as like actual mobility work, and I'm guilty of this a lot, right? So I'm not like calling anyone out. I'm calling myself out a bit too. But I also supplement on days that I don't lift with mobility stuff, like just strictly athletic, like lengthening techniques and going through ranges of motion with weight even, right? Which is cool, but not just only muscle all the time. That's where you just build up that stiffness, that tightness. And then, like you said, you're standing over a golf ball and you tweak your back on the backswing. You haven't even swung yet. And we see that
for sure
so often.
One thing you had mentioned that I was listening to Dr. Gabrielle Lyons. She had, I forget who actually came on her show, but it was really interesting because you mentioned range of motion. And that now there's like the stretching component. You have self-myofascial release. Obviously, that's foam rolling. If anyone is aware and didn't know, that's just taking that foam and stretching your IT band, stretching your back. It's a great way to release that lactic acid that might be built up in your muscles. But then there's also this piece of static stretching versus dynamic stretching. I tend to sway a little bit more towards the dynamic approach, but he was speaking in reference to static stretching before like a workout and how that is actually a degressor. It doesn't help your workout. And so you definitely don't want to do like this static based stretching, but he talked about stretching in its entirety, right? And he said, he's like this, stretching is not even good unless you get range of motion that exceeds what you were before, right? So you're constantly trying to push that range of motion, much like a muscle, right? And building it, then you want to add a little bit more weight, right? To push that. Stretching is the same way. And that's, so the other day I was with my buddy and my hammies were tight. I mean, they were like super tight. And it's always better, obviously, when you have somebody around because they're going to push the leg a little bit further. And so I'm like, dude, I'll stretch you out if you stretch me out. And so he would, you know, my hamstring was getting more because my range of motion was getting pushed a little bit further. So you doing it yourself is honestly not the most ideal. It's when somebody is with you that you can actually push that range of motion to get like better mobility. So I thought that was interesting that like, number one, static stretching before a workout, definitely wouldn't recommend. He wouldn't recommend. He was a professional on his right. But then also how we stretch and the range of motion at which we stretch.
Yeah, I would agree with that, man. I think, like you said, dynamic, not even stretching, but mobility before you work out. You got to get blood flow to the area. You got to like warm it up. So that's where, you know, sometimes we'll go shoot some hoops or we'll play a little one-on-one. You get some blood moving. Then you do kind of like when I go into a workout, whatever like lifts I'm going to do, I'll do those exercises or something similar without weight first. So like I'll do some body weight squats to warm up for a squat. I'll do some lunges, right? I'll do some hangs or like just body weight pull-ups before I start pulling weight, because you're activating the muscles on a lighter level. You're like putting stimulus into the muscle, into the nervous system, saying, hey, like, let's wake these things up. We're about to start pushing it, right? Versus you just walk in there cold and start lifting weight. That's where you can, you know, hurt yourself, obviously, but also not get the best results because you're not going to be able to push it as hard.
Yeah, it's good. 3 practical ways to end the episode. Your best 3 ways to start incorporating start incorporating structure around your workouts for your particular hobby.
Yeah, I mean, I think understanding kind of what your goals are, right? Are your goals to get better at golf, or your goals to just be average? Like, what's your goal, right? Find a goal, a purpose, kind of a reason you're doing it, or you want to train, because that'll give you some motivation. That'll give you something in like an end thing to shoot for, right? Then I think 2 would be like programming, man. Like, no, we've talked about this multiple times. Like, I'll beat this horse all day long until it's a corpse, but you have to have a program. If you just go into the gym with no plan, you're planning to fail. So you have to have some kind of, it doesn't have to be some robust, crazy 5-month thing, but like even a weekly program where you're like, hey, these days are this day's this, even a daily. All right. Like, let's just like get super basic for guys who are just starting or something, right? Like just knowing what you're going to do before you even walk into the gym, or else you're just walking around blind. So number 2 is definitely programming. And then the third is making sure that programming fits your goals, right? Now, how do we tie those 2 together? So if it's golf, you need some rotation, you need anti-rotation, right? That's where you're resisting weight through a range of motion so that you're going to build strength in that eccentric phase. But then developing power, right? Golf is very much power, but it's also mechanics. So making sure you're staying loose. So that's a much different workout than a football player, right? It's going to be totally different. And there's some components that are going to be similar, but, you know, a base of strength with some mobility and some flexibility makes more sense for a golfer than, you know, for something else. So I think we keep hanging back on golf. I think it's just one that a lot of guys can relate to, but
Love golf. I love
golf
it.
too. Yeah. I love it. I wish I was playing right now. What? We'll get out there soon, one day. But
What
yeah,
was
I
that?
think the
What
answer
number
is-
3? What was number 3? Did you say number 3?
Yeah, I think it did. Number 1 was having a goal. Number 2 was programming, and number 3 was making sure that programming fits the goal.
That programming fits the goal. I love that. So, this episode is brought to you by our Optimizers program. Again, if you want to get that programming built in and you want to live the most optimized life you possibly can live, check us out. Reach out to us. We'll get you in the right contact and we'll get you direction on your goals. Number 2, Nutrition Solutions. We just love you. Put in the code FullField15 if you want some great meal programming that will optimize your nutrition. So FullField15, plug it in. You'll get a 15% discount on your first order. And Spread Oaks Farms, check it out. They got some meaty, delicious options to get that protein intake. They got some great beef. It'll be shipped right to your doorstep. Just head on over to their site, get 25% discount on your first order. And you don't need to plug in anything. The discount code is right on the site. As always, live full fuel, baby. Live beyond limits. Let's go.
Welcome to the Full Field Podcast.
I'm going to set what the new normal looks like in my life.
You're not limited by your genetics.
You have always superpower that is lifting people up.
So unfortunately, most businesses aren't going to use the highest quality ingredients.
What's your approach?
Dude's jacked.
I know he's jacked. That's why I'm
I
asking him
don't
what he
think he
trains.
I don't think he lifts.
Yeah.
Consistency in everything that we do that really compounds. Only way we're going to get the word out is with you. Live full fueled, live beyond limits, baby.